Hello, beautiful people. I am Crystal coming to chat with you tonight on all things food noise. And there's this thing called Halloween coming up in a few days. And I want to come in here and really just share with you some things that I know can help you. And why do I know they can help you? Because I am someone who has experience in this field, not only professional experience, but also personal experience. So if you don't know my background story, I'm gonna come in here and share a little quick bit about it. And then if you can relate with me, let me know in the comments if this is something that you're like, yes, I'm here for this, please share. And let's get this started. So I am somebody who spent more than half of my life hating my body. And I did all the diets possible. I have used and abused it in ways that are just not healthy, like over-exercising, under-eating. I did all the things and just the negative self-talk. And I did this for more than half of my life. And I'm going to say about a decade ago, things shifted because I had competed in some bodybuilding competitions. And when I quote unquote hit the mark, right, that we are looking for, after I got my medals, I was like, I still don't like myself. And actually was during the prep of the second show where I really developed some disordered eating patterns and habits that I hadn't previously had, or some of them amplified. And so I'm coming in here just to share with you tips and tricks because I know Halloween's right around the corner, and then we're gonna ramp up into the holiday season with all the goodies, the treats, all the things. Like, let me know if you're at the point where you're just like, okay, I just give up and I'll start back again in January. Or are you like having a lot of food FOMO, like fear of missing out? Or are you having like some, maybe you're just like stuck and you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna come in here tonight. I just wanna share things that I know that I've helped, a method that I developed and has really just helped me really radically transform my relationship that I had with food, as well as exercise, and to my body image. And I'm coming in here to share this with you. So let's get started. All right, so here's the thing. First and foremost, I really want to invite you to pay attention to this one thing. This is super huge. Have you ever noticed that when you're out with friends, or maybe it's you yourself, when you're talking about your food and your food choices, how we attach a moral label to that? I really just want you to hear this. When I started bringing this conscious awareness to this habit that I had, wow, I first had to notice it for myself, and then I noticed it everywhere, and now it's like my ears bleed. I'm not even kidding. My friends know that if you're around me and this is happening, I'm gonna call you out on it, because this is not self-deprecation, first of all, in society should not be a thing. And we should not be attaching moral labels to our own human, right? And so the moral labels, it looks like this. I'm gonna be good today and I'm gonna eat a salad. Oh my God, I was so bad and I had some dessert, right? Tell me if you have heard people that you love, or even on TV, like we hear it everywhere, or maybe you have caught yourself saying that. So this has to be number one. Moral labels and food do not belong in the same sentence. I have been preaching this since I understood for myself that that's a habit I had, and I was like, whoa, I know I'm not the only one. And we really just gotta like cut that in the booty, big time, right? That is not helping you, because there's actually studies that show that how we speak to ourselves really affects how we show up and what happens physiologically to ourselves in the body. So that looks like if you're berating yourself, you are actually flooding your body with stress hormones, and your mind cannot tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And how do I know that this is true? I'm gonna tell you right now. Have you ever like sat through a scary show and you got your palms all sweaty, or like it's like the part in the video where it's like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? And you're like holding your breath. That's your mind not being able to determine if this is reality or fantasy. So when we speak to ourselves, your mind doesn't know, and it's flooding you with the stress hormones. And Like, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't. Life doesn't have to be this way, okay? So that's number one. Number two, Halloween. Here we go. We're getting up into it. All the holidays are going to start to ramp up here in Canada. We've already had our Thanksgiving. Halloween is in a few days. In the United States, I know that you guys are going to have your Halloween and then Thanksgiving and Christmas, and this follows suit. And if you're somewhere else in the world, well, hello. Welcome to the Brave Bold You channel. This is the place where we actually start to be brave, to be bold, to be ourselves, and take up our full, authentic space in our bodies, in our lives, and in our goals, and all the things. So I'm really happy you're here. Let me know where you're watching from. But first and foremost, I'm gonna share this one tool that I developed because I used to struggle. I used to have a lot of food noise. If you don't know what food noise is, I'm gonna tell you what that is right now. Food noise is when you're constantly, there's this chatter. There's always a chatter, by the way, in our minds. But when your chatter is mostly focused on food, it's mostly focused on when's your next meal, what you're gonna eat. Oh my God, I'm hungry. I'm eating this meal, but I'm planning the next meal, right? And so on and so forth. And it just takes up so much mental, emotional bandwidth that it becomes exhausting. Exhausting. They've actually done studies as well where people think they just need to white knuckle it through and like use that willpower. And the thing is that the more the relationship you have towards the food you're consuming and the relationship you've built within yourself, and this is why I'm going to share this tool, it really has an impact. Because if you don't have a solid relationship, then there's such a thing as decision fatigue, and that's gonna wipe you out fast. What does that look like? That looks like it takes everything for you to say no at the coffee break for those donuts, and then it takes everything for you to say no for your friend who's like, let's go out and have, I don't know, a poutine or whatever, you know, and it takes you everything to like, you know, stick and strong to this hardcore diet that you're trying to follow, or this meal plan, which I've got an opinion on these things, and I'll share that later. And that when it comes to the end of the day, you're just so exhausted because we're making decisions all the time, that when it gets to the end, you're just like, and then we fall into the, what scientists have now claimed, the what the hell effect. And that looks like, screw it, I'm just gonna eat all the things in sight because why not, right? It's basically like slashing all three tires because you have one flat tire. This is literally what the hell effect looks like. And if you have been there, I have been there, raise your hand, we're going to talk about it. But here's the thing, this mental emotional bandwidth, it becomes so loud in your mind, and that's all it is, and that's all it is, and that's all that's consuming you. And in there, guaranteed, you have attached moral labels and you have food rules, and this video is for you. And if you want to share this out, that'd be great, but let me know in the comments. Let's just have this open conversation. First and foremost, we're gonna like be really, I'm gonna try not to hit my new microphone. We're gonna be really kind to our humans. I'm really big on that. We need to be kind to our humans, and when we learn something new, when we know better, we can choose different. It's not when you know better, you do better, like you be better. It's when you know better, you choose something different, okay? Because you can always go back to the same way of being. Always, always. That's always an option. However, if you want to try something different, then you need to take this information that I'm going to share, and I'm hoping something you're going to grab from here and go and apply it, and then come let me know. But there is a way to really just quiet this food noise and this overconsumption of that chatter, to really just stop draining this mental emotional bandwidth so that your decision fatigue doesn't like burn out faster, okay? Because truth be told, everybody has decision fatigue. It's just depending on how many decisions you've had to make all day, right? So you really just have to set yourself up. So here's where we're gonna go. I have this acronym, it's called SAM. This is my SAM method. So the S in SAM stands for your self-talk. I already started this video talking about that. What's your self-talk track? So your self-talk is huge. Now, I talked about the moral labels and how you're chatting towards yourself and if you're berating yourself, but this self-talk is not only for that, it's also for what is it associated to the rules you've created with the food choices you're making. So do you tell yourself, I can't have something, I can't have that, right? Because the minute you say you can't have something, guess what? You want it, right? Reverse psychology is a thing. And so if you tell yourself, I can't have it, you are for sure gonna want it, because rejection creates obsession. And so be prepared to ramp that up. So what is your self-talk? Are you limiting yourself to like feeling, because the thing is, the minute you say you can't, you kind of box yourself in like a victim, and like you don't have sovereignty and authority over your life. This is literally what it is. And so you are limiting the potential here. So your self-talk is really, what are you saying to yourself? Are you attaching moral labels to the decisions you make with your food, right? We got to look at that. And number two is, where are you creating these food rules that are not allowing you to have certain things? Now, side note, because I had all these issues, like with all these, my relationship with food was not very healthy, obviously. And I decided that I wanted to really just work on that further. And so I went and I studied through precision nutrition. I took level 1 and level 2 because I really wanted to understand what food was. And so based off of that course, I did a lot of healing, inner healing. I took it even further. I applied it to my clients and helped them heal their relationship with food as well. But what it helped me understand is, number one, I don't believe that there is such a thing as quote unquote bad food. Okay, I really want to remove these moral labels. I really want to remove this binary way of like good and bad thinking. And instead, I want us to just look at the quality of the food, right? So is this a food that's more nutritionally optimal? Like, are my cells, like when we're feeding ourselves, we are literally feeding this vessel that houses our soul. And so we know, we know that if we just eat quote unquote crappy food, and I use quotations because we know, right? We don't always feel that great. It feels good in the moment, and I'm going to tell you why, because these companies, they spend a lot of money to do research to figure out how to get you hooked, okay? It's a known fact. So now you need to change this relationship with it. And so there are food, obviously, that is more optimally nutritious, meaning you're going to feel it. You're going to feel like it's satisfying. Satiety is a big thing. You're going to feel like, oh, this feels good. And then there's times where we actually eat to feed our psyche, meaning we've had a stressed day and we use food as a comfort. And that comes based on when we were born, we would cry and we were fed, right? And so it's been programmed, it's in our biology, it's how it's kept us alive. And so comfort food is a real thing, and we need to stop shaming ourselves around that, right? Because that's another thing, when we're shaming and berating ourselves, we're just flooding our nervous system to a point where the body doesn't want to be in, like, we don't want to be in this body. So the toxic load inside of us makes us go and grab these other things because it'll give us a dopamine hit, right? And so everything is related, right? So I really just need you to understand, what is your self-talk track? A stands for abundance. Now, where I live in the world in Northern Ontario, Canada, and depending on where you live, most of the world, I'm not going to say all of the world because I'm very well aware of the privileges that I have with food, but there is an availability and an abundance of it everywhere, right? I am very blessed. You are most likely very blessed. And if you're part of the population that is not, like, I see you, but I'm speaking to those who are having this food noise, right? There is an abundance. There is ample food around us. Right now, with, like, let's talk about Halloween, everything has already existed in the stores. They have just got us with the marketing and made it really cute and like all bite-sized and stuff. But that food has always existed, right? Stay with me here. When we start getting into the Christmas, yes, there are items that are more exclusive, and they also do that on purpose as well to create this like FOMO of like fear of missing out, and they're gonna want you to come get it. But these these items have always existed. And so they're available. There's an abundance of them. There is ample opportunity to go out to the store and grab what you're hungry for. It's there. So we can't let certain holidays distract us from the fact that these are all designed by corporations and the marketing to make us go spend our money to purchase the thing, right? And so Halloween candies, they've always been in the stores. They just remarketed it, redistributed it. They put it in these convenient little boxes, right? These variety packs, like, but last I checked, there's always available of chocolate, there's always available candy, like all this stuff always already existed. Okay, you following me here? So we need to see the abundance. We need to see that there's ample opportunities. These have always existed. The availability is there, okay? And then M stands for the moderation. Now, the reason I talk about moderation is because I want you to just think of it like this. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. They're a lot older, but when they were younger, there were times that they just wanted to have ice cream for breakfast. Now, as a mom, the way that I parented my kids, like, I'm not just gonna give them, ice cream for breakfast. That's not gonna nourish them, right? We talked about the more nourishing foods. That's not gonna nourish them. They're gonna be hungry like within the hour. And if I'm sending them to school, like, I'm not setting them up for success. So follow me here. So the moderation piece comes in where you now have to become a parent to yourself. And so you need to really just be honest. Like the when it comes to growth, like, this channel is all based on personal development, like all of it. So if you want to change your life, like, follow along, because I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks for that. But the amount of growth a person will have is by being brave enough to be honest about how they're showing up in their life. And so moderation comes down to, well, I could eat this thing, but if I ate it yesterday and the day before, like, the moderation piece comes into what is your relationship to the thing, right? And so when I was competing actually for my second bodybuilding show, I ate a Snickers bar every day because I was trying to prove to some of the fitness people that have really radical ideas of how it's got to be chicken, rice, and broccoli, that actually that's not true, because I understood nutrition better and I understood the quality of the calories and the macronutrients, that I could have a Snickers bar a day and it didn't affect me in the sense that I was still able to prep for my show. I still got on stage. I still placed top 5. Like, I did that as a way to show and educate others that we need to stop, like, we need to really question certain rules we have around food. And so the moderation could look like, yeah, I could fit it in, right? This is why I'm really big on paying attention to, like, macronutrients, like, and really making sure that it's more of a balanced, and I'm really big on bio-individuality. So obviously there's going to be people that are vegan, vegetarian, like, whatever practice you have with and the relationship you have with your food, amazing. I'm all about bio-individuality as long as we're educating ourselves on all of it, right? And so understanding things and really just not blocking off certain things because of a fear of them. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, versus obviously, like, if you have like your religious beliefs and all the things, obviously that, like, that's your, like, you know what I mean? Bio-individuality. I'll leave it at that. But your moderation really needs to come from, how am I showing up and am I being honest with myself, right? Like, this is a vessel. This body we have is a vessel for our soul. And so do I feel like I'm living, like, vibrant, or do I feel like I'm like I got no more gas in the tank? And they've done all of the studies. This really shows, like, the food that we eat obviously impacts us. And so just being aware without being, like, so rigid, and I'm going to say something to that right here. We can't major in the minors. Like, stop majoring in the minors. Like, every time I have a client that wants to work with me, they want to know, like, what supplements do I need and what do I need for this and what do I need to do for that? And the thing is you're majoring in the minors and you're not focusing on like majoring in where you need to move the dial, right? Essentially. So it's like paying attention, like, am I getting enough sleep, right? Which is another thing. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking your water? Right? So I'm going to give you some extra tips. So now I'm going into the extra tips. So the sleep is important because when you are not rested, your body, again, is going to look for these sources of energy. And so it's natural that it's going to want to gravitate to stuff that gives us this quick boost in energy, right? It doesn't care that we're going to get a crash later. It needs energy now. And so if you're not getting quality sleep and really understanding like your sleep hygiene, like that sweet sleep spot, you know, I did a video all on that. You can check in my menu, but I did a video all on that. Like having a sleep hygiene routine is important for the next day. And so if I don't get, like my sweet spot is 9 hours. If I get 7 hours, the next day is a little bit more challenging for me. If I get anything less than that, man, it's hard to human. I already know, you know, that I'm going to struggle. So I'm already aware that I'm going to crave the caffeine more. I'm going to crave the sugar more. It just makes sense. I don't have to make it mean anything, and I don't, for sure, don't have to make it wrong or make myself wrong. I can just understand, right? However, if I get closer to the 9 hours, we're coasting. It's amazing, right? So you need to be aware, like, what is your sleep sweet spot? There are a certain amount of hours that your body is just like, woo! And you know it because you wake up and you're like, I feel so good. Versus other times you wake up and you're like, ugh. And also, the food we ate the day before and the activities we decided to do the day before obviously impact, right? So if I had a bunch of quote unquote crappy food, getting up the next morning, I'm gonna feel sluggish. It's all related, right? So what is your sleep? Are you getting quality sleep, right? The next I talked about thirst, because here's the thing. There's a part in our brain called the hypothalamus, and in that part, that's really responsible for regulating our body temperature. It's going to give our body all kinds of cues. Well, thirst and hunger come from there. So oftentimes we're not really hungry, we're very thirsty, we're dehydrated. They actually say the minute you start to feel like you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And so I literally lug around a bottle of water. And now that I'm speaking about it, I'm like, I am thirsty. So allowing ourselves to drink the water and then waiting, that hunger pain that we got, sometimes it subsides, okay? And please, let me just pause here. I am not talking about depriving yourself and restricting on calories. I do not believe at all in that method, at all. I'm going to actually say people who are dieting, they are eating well below what their normal basal metabolic rate, which is just basically the energy your body needs to breathe and to stay alive. That's not doing anything else. You're eating well under that, and this is why you're struggling, right? So I'm really big on making sure you're eating enough. So that's going to be tip number 3. Like, are you eating enough? Are you eating enough? Are you really eating enough? Sometimes I have worked with clients, and if I look at myself, there are times where I was depriving myself so much that I would get to the end of the day ravished. Like, I was so hungry, I would like eat a horse, like literally, like just eat all the things inside and then just keep going and going and going. And obviously the binging habit started because of the self-talk, because of the food rules. Like, do you see how everything is related? And so if you're not eating enough, like your body will, you're not able to outsmart your body. That is first and foremost. Your body is made to keep you alive. And so it's going to do whatever it can to keep you alive, right? It has functions it needs, like your brain needs calories to function, right? And so if you're not eating enough, that is a huge, that for sure is going to create a lot of like food noise in the mind. That's going to be chatter nonstop because you're starving. And so for the love of God, eat some food. Food is not the enemy, okay? Your thoughts are. We have been conditioned by society to believe that we need to be a certain size and all the things. And again, like I have a different practice. My practice is healthy is what feels healthy to you. So starving yourself cannot feel healthy at all. And so you need to be eating enough. And on this same token, I decided I want to share something really, really important that I just was doing research on, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And so I'm a Gen X woman. I'm 46. I grew up in a generation where women were taught we need to be smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, you need to eat less, move more, all the things. And the generations that came before me were all taught the same thing. And so there is a study that was done recently where they discovered, and this is very sad, they took participants that had basically been eating and doing all the practices that they were recommended, you know, eat less, move more. And I don't believe in this, and you shouldn't either after you hear this. And what they discovered was the more that we go on these fad diets, we're actually impacting our muscle. And our muscle is what we need to be able to age. And I'm all about the pro-aging, right? I'm 46. I'm all about pro-aging. I just had my second major massive spinal flare because I have a condition called spondylolisthesis. It's a grade 2. It was horrible, okay? And so I'm in the process now of rebuilding my strength because I never want to go back there. And muscle is what's going to help us pro-age. It's going to help us age in a way where we're able to get up off of our chairs, where we're able to bend down and like pick up our groceries, right? Where we're able to reach up in our cupboards and grab that jar of pickles or whatever. Like, aging is a gift that's denied to many. And if we are lucky enough to age, we've got to try to pro-age in a way that's going to help us age gracefully so that we're not suffering, right? Our quality of life will be greatly impacted. And so in this study, they took women that had spent more than half of their lives on fad diets and doing all these ridiculous exercise programs, you know, like I just said, the eat less and move more approach, which is okay. And there was a woman that they took from this study that agreed to have her brain imaging done and to do full body scans. And they discovered, and then they did this with a lot of the other participants, but this study spoke specifically to this one woman, where she had lost so much muscle, right? Because when we diet, that's what we're actually doing. We're cutting muscle. So she had lost a lot of muscle. And so that made her metabolic age like a lot older than she actually was, right? So that's like your metabolic age is a really good indicator of health. And I could do another video on that to just talk about how to figure out what your metabolic age currently is compared to what your chronological age is. And they did an image of her brain and they saw that it had all the signs of early onset Alzheimer's. And that was all related to, now obviously there's other factors, but after they did this study, they reviewed all of the participants, and this is what they came up with, is that when we are over dieting, when we are over exercising, when we are under eating, right, we are losing our muscle and we are impacting our overall health. We are impacting our mind, our brain, right? We're impacting it all. And so they, after I saw that study, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to start preaching it from the rooftops even louder than I previously was. The importance of moving our bodies in a way that is going to impact in a positive way the future version of us. And so women that are in my age group, right, are the Gen X women, we should be doing some resistance training, right? You should be trying to, you know, do some resistance training that could look like body weight stuff, but also some, you know, weights or bands or things like this, just challenging that muscle growth in your body. That's huge, right? And then on that note, I'm going to talk about the cardio. And this is why you're going to understand why. If you're somebody that's always doing cardio, yes, cardio is good for the cardiovascular health, like your heart health and your overall system health. But if you do a lot of cardio, there's going to be something called the compensatory effect. What this compensatory thing is, it's going to make you hungrier because it's going to want to replace the calories you just burnt. And so I know firsthand that I used to be one of those people that would be on the cardio machines and being like, how many calories did I burn? Okay, cool. Now I can go eat this thing. Like, we need to stop that. We need to stop that. Okay. But it'll just make you hungrier. And so, yes, it's good to challenge ourselves and to keep that heart healthy and all the systems and like all the organs inside your full system healthy, do some sprints, things like that. However, you can't constantly be doing that. And so the best cardio to do would be to walk, because walking doesn't trigger that compensatory effect. It does not. It won't trigger it to the same effect as somebody if they're always cardioing. Like, I know for myself, when I was prepping for my shows, I was always hungry and I had to do a lot of cardio. Okay, I was working out all the time. And so if you switch that up to just walking, right? Get some resistance training in. Like, all of this is going to start to shift for you. And you're like, what does this have to do with food? Everything. Okay? So it's really making sure that you're eating enough, and how are you moving your body? And are you moving your body, right? Like, it's important. Next, I'm going to throw in there to do some, like, what's your hobby? Because sometimes if we're ever in front of the fridge and you're like, I'm hungry, but there's nothing that I want. You open the cupboard, I'm hungry, but there's nothing that I want. Then honey, you're not hungry, you're bored. Go do something, right? It becomes a habit. It just becomes a habit. You just keep doing the thing, but nothing's changing. Then you're not really hungry. Maybe you're thirsty and you're bored. Go take a walk, right? Go do something else. Get out of that environment. Change your environment, right? These are all things that you start to pay attention to, because it'll shift that. First of all, I'm hoping it'll start to really help you ask yourself different questions, right? Tony Robbins always says this: the quality of your life depends on the quality of your questions. So what are you asking yourself, right? Ask yourself the right questions, like, I'm curious how I got here. I'm curious what happens if I do this. I'm curious if, and just start to do experiments on yourself from a place of really wanting to improve this relationship. So that, because literally this food noise, it doesn't have to take up as much space as it has in your life. And there is a way to get to a point where you can quiet it or completely shut it out. And I'm living proof, and I have clients that are living proof. Some people, they're still going to have some food noise, but it's never going to be to the extent it was, because they are managing these things, right? They're really, like, they're focusing on what their self-talk is. They're understanding that there's always an abundance of food, so they can have the thing or not have the thing. They're working on their moderation, right? They're really paying attention to, like, how things shift if they do decide to have the thing. Like, one of the exercises that I do with certain clients is I ask them what their food rules are, and then I tell them to go eat something that they have a rule against eating, to just change that thought process. Take your power back. Now, does it always work? Not always. But I'm somebody who used to identify as a chocoholic. Well, if I identify as that, then I'm going to show up as that. So I'm going to have behaviors like that, right? So where's my power? Where now I just say, okay, I want a piece of chocolate. I have a piece of chocolate. It's not the end of the world. I don't deny it, and I don't make it mean anything, but I'm also paying attention to how I'm showing up in it. Let me know if this is making any sense. But that's pretty much it. Like, I wanted to come in here and just share, like, as things start to ramp up, you don't have to be afraid of food. You don't have to have this FOMO, fear of missing out. You don't have to beat yourself up. Like, another thing, like, if you do eat any of these things, then the next thing is to work on that self-talk. Are you beating yourself up? Because again, you're flooding your nervous system with all these stress hormones. Instead, it's like, okay, you didn't mess up. You just had a human experience. Like, this doesn't have to mean anything. I know for myself, when I used to beat myself up, I would beat myself up. I would skip meals. I would do all the things. And it gave me nothing. It gave me nothing. Now it's like, cool, I enjoyed this. And like, there's such a thing as it's called the cephalic digestive response. I think I'll end on this because I feel like the more knowledge we have to understand something, the more we can change that relationship with that something, you know? And like, we just let like whatever simmer, maybe like save this video and come back to it, listen to it again and see if something else lands. But the cephalic digestive response starts even before you start digesting your food. It starts with the experience. First of all, it starts with the experience. Like, what does the experience look like? You know, like, how is it all presented on your plate, you know, or in your bowl or in your cup or whatever? Like, what does it look like? What does it smell like? Right? That your digestion starts there. And then you put the food in your mouth and then it's going to start to digest in your mouth. And 60% of the way that we metabolize our food starts from this cephalic digestive response. And it looks like this. If I'm eating something and my self-talk is this is good food, my body stays calm, my nervous system is not flushed with all these stress hormones, my body will metabolize and use the nutrients as such. But if I eat something and my self-talk is, this is bad, I shouldn't be eating this, then I'm going to start eating it faster. I'm going to start chewing it faster. I'm going to try to like shove it and get rid of the evidence, right? And what's being created is my nervous system now becomes stressed. My nervous system becomes under this fight or flight, freeze, fawn response, right? And it's going to stop digesting the nutrients. It's going to store it, because it doesn't know if we're going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, right? Again, the mind. Is this reality or fantasy? And so it's really important to pay attention, like, how are you showing up in your relationship to food? Everything is related. And so the cephalic digestive response is 60% of what you're eating gets digested, and it's going to take the nutrients, it's going to do what it needs to. But if you're stressing your body out, so it's super important. I'm going to say, like, take some time, listen to this video again. Let me know in the comments if any of this made sense, or if you're like, you know, want me to go deeper on certain topics, and also like what you're walking away with. I know I just gave you a lot of things. There's my SAM method. We talked about moral labels. I gave you 5 other tips on like how to use different strategies and to just really question how you're showing up in your life regarding this relationship and see what changes. And you know what I mean? I'm going to leave it at that. I am going to now go and make my bedtime snack. And I'm really grateful I was here. I am so grateful for all the subscribers that I have so far. Super, super grateful that you're here. And yeah. Let me know how this went. Love you all. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, remember, be brave, be bold, be you. Bye.